Hi everyone, Kelt here. Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, hit the subscribe button and the bell and join us. Today we're diving deep, like really deep, into Prince Harry's explosive BBC interview that dropped last week on May the 2nd, 2025. This isn't going away because people are looking into more of what he said and why he said it. So, we're unpacking the fallout and digging deep into Harry's mental state, exploring why King Charles is staying silent and checking out what people are saying right now, especially all the chat which is popping up over on X. So, grab yourself a coffee or whatever you drink, get yourself comfy and let's dive in. Stick around to the end because I've got some thoughts on where this could all be heading. It will be really full on. So let's go. So why does this interview matter? Because Harry's done plenty of interviews. Why does this one matter? It wasn't just a news blip. Harry talking about his security battles, his family rifts, and even his father's health. It wasn't a blip, it was a bombshell. Harry didn't hold back, calling the UK's decision to strip his security a good old-fashioned establishment stitch-up, and hinting that King Charles could fix it but won't. The internet exploded. X is a war zone of opinions, and the royals, they're quieter than a mouse at Buckingham Palace. Meanwhile, King Charles is out there unveiling a new portrait, just like it's another Tuesday. This isn't about a court case. It's about a son, a father, a fractured family, and a guy who's clearly wrestling with some heavy emotions and some demons. On X, people are tearing into Harry, calling him everything from whiny to disloyal, while others are like, no, he's just speaking his truth. So what's really going on? Let's break it down piece by piece and get into Harry's head. Not a good place, but let's try. The royal response, or lack thereof, and what the world is saying about it. So, let's start with the interview itself. If you haven't watched it, Harry sat down with BBC News Nada Tawfik on May the 2nd, 2025, right after a UK Court of Appeal dismissed his latest bid to restore his taxpayer-funded security protections. I've done a couple of videos on the interview, so they're more recent videos. And now for some quick context. Since you've heard the Megxit stuff before, when Harry and Meghan stepped back from royal duties in 2020, they lost automatic security in the UK. Harry's been fighting this in court, arguing it's unsafe for him, Meghan and their alleged children to visit without proper protection. So the courts keep ruling against him, and this particular loss hit hard. In the 30-minute interview, Harry was emotional, visibly shaken according to reports. He called the court's decision a stitch-up, saying the system's rigged against him. He argued that security shouldn't be a legal debate, but based on risk and threat to him and his family. He pointed out that other royals get protection, so why not him? Then he dropped a gut punch. He suggested King Charles could resolve this, not by pulling strings, but by stepping aside and letting experts assess the risks properly. That's a bold move, calling out your father on global TV, especially when he's the king. But it got even heavier. Harry brought up Charles's cancer diagnosis, saying, "Life is precious. I don't know how much longer my father has." And that line, it's haunting. It's like he's pleading for reconciliation, but also throwing shade, implying Charles is choosing politics over family. He got super vulnerable, saying he wants to forgive his family, Charles, William, even Camilla, for everything since he started dating Meghan in 2016. But he added that he can only come to the UK safely if he's invited by the royals, and right now he feels like Charles is shutting him out over this security issue. Harry also made a chilling claim. He suggested the British establishment might want him dead, saying everybody knew they were putting us at risk in 2020 and hoped that me knowing that risk would force us to come back. He even referenced his mother, Princess Diana, saying some people want history to repeat itself. Well, that's obviously a nod to Diana's 1997 death in a car crash while being chased by paparazzi. It's heavy and it shows how personal this is for Harry. The interview ended with him close to tears, saying this is a family dispute at its core. Raw, messy, and it's got everyone talking. Before we move on a quick note, the BBC caught heat for this. They admitted a lapse in standards because their Radio 4 Today programme didn't challenge Harry's stitch-up claims or include responses from the Home Office or Buckingham Palace. Some on X, like security expert Richard H., backed Harry, saying the lack of a proper risk assessment is a stitch-up. More on that later. So what do you think about Harry's claims? Drop a comment below and let's get the conversation going. So, Harry's mental state. What is driving him? Now let's get into Harry's head. What's pushing him to air this on BBC? Why go public again? To understand, we need to dig into his mental state. And trust me, it's a lot. Harry's been open about his struggles, grief over Diana, the pressure of royal life, the trauma of being hounded by the press. This interview feels like a continuation of that. He's not just fighting for security, he's fighting to be heard, to feel valued, maybe even to feel loved. Who knows? Experts are all over this. Dr. Raj Persaud, a Harley Street psychiatrist, analysed the interview and said Harry's public outburst is strategic. He's using the media to reach his family because direct communication is cut off. Harry literally said Charles won't speak to him, and that's going to hurt. Persaud noted worrying signs that Harry's in difficulty, suggesting he's emotionally stuck and might need help processing this. He thinks Harry's airing grievances is a plea for Charles to reach out, like, Dad, see me, talk to me. Then there's psychotherapist Lucy Beresford, who told the Mirror that Harry's inner child has hijacked his adult brain. She says his fear of history repeating itself with Diana's fate is driving him, and this interview was partly about not being forgotten. Beresford pointed out the irony. Harry chose to leave the UK, but now he's reminding the world he still exists. She also said the royals don't trust him anymore because he keeps going to the media. So that's fair enough. Very fair that they don't trust him anymore. You cannot blame them for that. But this does throw a different light on Harry's mental state. It is like when people revert back to the point of pain of where the offence occurred or the point of trauma occurred, and they start acting the same age as that child when it happened. So he's kicking out like a child in some ways, and I believe that this is why he contradicts himself so much. Historian Anthony Weldon chimed in, telling Sky News that Harry's words were deliberate, signalling he wants a new start with no more spiteful books like Spare. But Selden also said Harry's stuck in a cycle of re-airing grievances, which makes reconciliation harder. Another psychiatrist told GB News that Harry seems psychologically stuck, and this interview was a hasty, ill-thought-out tactic that won't mend fences. They suggested he needs professional help to rebuild family ties. So let's look into this. Harry's 40 now, living in California with Meghan and allegedly Archie and Lily. He's built a life there, but he's clearly haunted by the past. Diana's death, the royal fallout, the media frenzy. In the interview, he says he's forgiven his family, but there's pain in his voice. He's caught between wanting to move forward and feeling tethered to this unresolved conflict. He mentioned Spare, saying some royals will never forgive him for it, which shows he knows he's burned bridges. Yet he's still reaching out, saying he wants reconciliation. It's like he's screaming into the void, hoping someone hears him. Personally, I believe that you have to forgive people and you have to release them and let them go from the debt that they owe you, even if it's a perceived debt in your mind. And I think in doing so, you're no longer tied to them. And I think Harry is tied to them because he hasn't really let go. And the only way he will be free is to forgive them consciously and verbally, even if he's saying it to the mirror, even if he doesn't get a chance to say it to them personally. And then he needs to release them from what he feels that they owe him. Then it becomes real. On X, some users are picking up on this. One post I saw said, Harry's trauma is real, but he's stuck in a loop, airing the same pain over and over. He needs therapy, not TV. Another user was less kind. He's playing the victim again, using Diana's death to guilt trip everyone. Grow up. Harsh, but it shows the divide in how people see him. What's clear is Harry's in a tough spot. He's grieving a family connection that's slipping away, maybe forever. He's scared for his safety, his alleged children's safety, and he feels betrayed by the institution he was born into. But by going public, is he healing or just pouring salt in the wound? Let's talk about what's in the comments. What's Harry's endgame here? So, let's talk about the fallout. This interview didn't just ripple, it caused a tsunami. On X, reactions are a mix of support, outrage, and straight-up memes. So let's dive into what people are saying, because the internet is not holding back. The critics are loud. One X user posted, Harry's whining about security while living in a Montecito mansion, Crimea River. Charles has cancer and Harry's making it about him. Another said, he's trashed the royals for years. Spare, Netflix, Oprah, and now he wants reconciliation. Pick a lane, mate. A third called him disloyal, saying, you don't air family drama on BBC, especially about the King's health. That's low. These posts are racking up thousands of likes, showing a chunk of the public is fed up. Then there's the security debate. Harry's claim that the establishment wants him dead or at risk sparked some fire. A user wrote, he's delusional if he thinks the UK wants him gone. He's not that important anymore. But others backed him, like one post saying, Harry's right, the security downgrade was punitive. The royals are flexing power to keep him out. Security expert Richard H., quoted on X, doubled down, saying the lack of a proper risk assessment for Harry defines a stitch-up. That post got a lot of traction, with people debating whether Harry's being unfairly targeted. Media outlets are piling on too. The Express reported that Prince William's friend called Harry and Meghan's behaviour absolutely vile, and William has no incentive to speak to Harry after this. They haven't talked since Spare dropped in 2023, and this interview just widened the gap. The Mirror quoted a palace source saying Harry's comments extinguished reconciliation hopes, especially because he keeps making private issues public. Piers Morgan, never one to stay quiet, ripped into Harry on X, saying he's exploiting Charles's cancer for sympathy. That post blew up with thousands of replies, some agreeing, some calling Piers a bully. But Harry's got defenders too. On X, one user wrote, "Harry's speaking truth to power. The royals froze him out, and now they're shocked he's fighting back. Good for him." Another said, "His trauma from Diana's death is real. He's not whining. He's scared for his family. Charles should step up." These posts are less common but still getting love, especially from fans who see Harry as a victim of the royal machine. The BBC itself is catching strays. After their clarification about the lapse in standards, ex-users pounced. One wrote, "BBC let Harry spew nonsense without pushback. Where's the journalism?" Another defended them, saying, "It's an interview, not a debate. Harry got to tell his side. Deal with it." The controversies keeping the story alive, with hashtag HarryBBC trending for days. Then there's the portrait angle. King Charles unveiled a new painting at the National Gallery on May the 6th, part of VE Day commemorations. Ex-users are connecting dots. One said, "Charles is out here posing for artsy portraits, while Harry's begging for a phone call. Priorities." Another called the portrait tone-deaf, given the timing. It's not a huge talking point, but it's adding fuel to the narrative that Charles is detached from Harry's pleas. So some see Harry as a spoilt prince, throwing tantrums, others as a man fighting for his family's safety. The X discourse is brutal, but it shows how polarised this story is. What side are you on? Hit the comments and let me know. So why hasn't King Charles intervened? Now the big question. Why is King Charles staying silent? Harry's out here saying his dad won't talk to him, could fix the security issue but isn't. So what's stopping Charles? Let's dig into this, because it's the heart of this drama. First, the official line. Buckingham Palace responded to Harry's interview with a short statement, saying the security issue has been repeatedly examined by the courts, which ruled against Harry. They're basically saying, this isn't our call, it's the system. A close friend of Charles told The Times, it's not that the king won't speak to him, it's that he can't. Why? Because it would be constitutionally improper for Charles to interfere in a legal matter. The security decisions come from Riveting, a government committee, not the king directly. Charles stepping in could look like favouritism or meddling, which is a no-go for a monarch. But there is more to this. Royal commentator Richard Fitzwilliams told US Weekly that Harry's interview was a serious own goal. He said it's confirmed Charles's view that Harry is not to be trusted, especially after Harry brought up Charles's cancer. Fitzwilliams called reconciliation farther away than ever, and that's a tragedy. A palace source told In Style that Charles is frustrated and upset with Harry, and the interview didn't help. They added that Charles has quite enough on his plate with cancer treatment and royal duties, like leading VE Day events. Charles's actions back this up. He was spotted at church in Sandringham on May the 4th, then led VE Day commemorations on May the 5th to the 8th, including a concert in London. The royals wanted no distractions from honouring World War II veterans, and Harry's interview was seen as just that, a distraction. You all know my thoughts on the whole thing. I believe that the whole thing is a distraction. But I digress. So this is part of Charles's public-facing duties, showing he's focused on king stuff, not family drama. And there's also a trust issue. Harry's media track record, Spare, the Netflix doc, Oprah has the royals on edge. A source told the Mirror that Charles and William fear anything they say to Harry could end up in another interview. Harry even admitted in the BBC chat that some royals will never forgive him for Spare, which spilled major tea. So Charles might be thinking, why talk if it's going to be on X tomorrow? But here's the flip side. Harry's supporter on X argue Charles should intervene, not as a king, but as a dad. One post said, Charles is hiding behind protocol to avoid Harry. If he cared, he'd pick up the phone. Another wrote, Harry's begging for safety for his kids, and Charles is playing monarch. Where's the humanity? These takes are gaining traction, with some calling Charles cold or stubborn. Then there's the health angle. Charles is undergoing cancer treatment, which Harry referenced. Some say Harry's comment was manipulative, using Charles's illness to guilt him. Others see it as Harry's fear talking. His dad's sick, time's short, and he's desperate to fix things. Either way, Charles's health might be limiting his emotional bandwidth. A friend of the king told The Independent that dealing with the Harry problem is one step too far for William, and likely Charles too. So, why no intervention? It's a mix of constitutional limits, broken trust, Charles's focus on duties, and maybe some personal hurt. Charles might want to reconcile. Sources say he's a kind man with a warm heart, but Harry's public approach keeps pushing him away. What do you think Charles should do? Let me know in the comments. But in the meantime, listen to the end because there's some good stuff coming at the end. So let's talk about where Harry is today, because he's not just sitting at home licking his wounds. On May the 6th, he made his first public appearance since the interview, attending a Las Vegas event for the Diana Award, a youth charity honouring his mother, Princess Diana. He was all smiles, launching the Pledge to Invest campaign to support young leaders. Harry said, "Through the Diana Award, I've had the privilege of meeting young people who have turned adversity into action." He also called for fearless leadership in an apathetic world, which some see as a subtle jab at the royal silence. This move shows Harry's trying to stay positive, focusing on his mother's legacy. According to Sussex.com, it underscores his continued commitment to Diana's belief in youth power. But ex-users had mixed takes. One posted, "Harry's doing good work, but it's convenient timing after that BBC mess. Damage control? ? Another said, "He's honouring Diana while the royals play dress-up. Respect." Mentally, though, Harry's in a tough spot. The interview showed he's wrestling with grief, fear and frustration. He wants to reconcile, but feels blocked. His Las Vegas appearance suggests he's channeling that into work, but experts like Persaud say he's psychologically stuck, replaying the same pain. I totally agree with that. I've seen it in others, and he's on a loop, absolutely. On X, a supporter wrote, "Harry's trying to move forward, but the royals keep him in the past. Let him heal." A critic countered, "He's stuck because he won't stop talking. Silence is strength, Harry." Harry's also facing backlash for the interview's optics. The Times UK called it a disaster, saying his new PR chief, Meredith Maines, miscalculated, comparing it to Prince Andrew's infamous BBC flop. On X, one user mocked, "Harry's team thought this was a flex? He's his own worst enemy." But Harry's defenders argue that he had to speak out, with one post saying, "He's fighting for his family's safety. What would you do?" Right now, Harry's active with Archewell, pushing the Diana Award, but the interview's shadow looms large. He's trying to balance advocacy, alleged fatherhood, and this ongoing royal rift. Where he goes next, more interviews, charity work or silence, depends on how this plays out. So what's next? Where do we go from here? So let's wrap this up with some thoughts on what's next for Harry, King Charles and the royal family. It's not looking rosy. For Harry, the interview was a gamble. He got his message out, but at a cost. Reconciliation feels further away, with sources saying Charles and William see him as a trust issue. On X, the sentiment's mixed. Some want him to keep fighting, others want him to zip it. One post summed it up. Harry's stuck in a cycle. He talks, they freeze him out. He talks more. Someone's got to break it. Experts like Fitzwilliams say Harry needs to stop public outbursts if he wants a shot at mending things. But will he? Now this is a little bit of deja vu for me. I don't know if some of you are noticing this, but this does remind me of Thomas Markle Sr., where he kept speaking out and people kept saying, if you keep your mouth shut, Meghan might contact you. This is so similar. Can you see it? As for Charles, it's about staying the course. He's got cancer treatment, VE Day events and a kingdom to run. The portrait, the concerts, the public appearances, they're all about projecting stability. But as a dad, he might be hurting too. Sources say he's upset, but can't engage without risking more drama. On X, one user wrote, Charles could end this with a call, but he's choosing king over father. Sad. The bigger picture? This rift is a tragedy. Harry wants his family back, but his approach, going public, keeps backfiring. The royals want peace, but their silence feels like rejection to Harry. Someone's got to give, but trust is shot. And Harry, well, he might double down on charity work like the Diana Award to rebuild his image, but another interview could drop if he feels ignored. Charles will likely keep his distance, focusing on duties, unless a private olive branch happens off camera. I believe that Catherine has a lot of sway in all of this. She's very close to King Charles and she is a great influence. And I think if anyone could come up with something, some way of them having contact with Harry without him blabbing it to the public, I think it will be Catherine. So, what do you think happens next? Will Harry and Charles ever reconcile? Should Harry keep speaking out or go quiet? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's keep this conversation going. If you like this deep dive, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends and check out my other royal videos for more tea. I promised you something interesting at the end of this video, and there are rumours that Harry will be having his line of succession removed, he and any alleged children. So don't forget to click for alerts for my next video, because this one is going to be a good one. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.